What's going on, dude? Silu? Yin? Can't hear you, man.
Yeah. I just got the notification that we're being recorded.
Yeah, I got the notification too. I have no idea what's going on right now.
Fantastic.
Okay. All right. Can you hear us all?
Well, yes, I can. Sorry, we just lost. We lost the internet, but we have a backup plan. All right. Well, guys, I see. You're great.
Yeah.
Right. Now, what was I going to say? I see we've got Pete Gillis with us now. I was going to say this. Welcome, defenders. One order of urgent non-team business requires your cheer and your cleverness, which are needed throughout the world. And I, Silu, propose the celebration of Dollar Bill's birthday each year on the birthday of his creator, David Anthony Kraft, who would also have us honor Ledge, who doesn't remember his birthday. Well, who seconds the motion?
I'll do it. I just came from Dollar General, so it makes sense.
Oh, fantastic.
And I'm
Well,
in too.
There's a man who appreciates a dollar bill.
Yeah.
Okay, could you please introduce yourself, sir?
I'll start. I'm Jim Salicrup, and been Jim Salicrup for 64 years and 1 day now. So that's me.
Fantastic. And
Yeah.
happy birthday again from all of
Thank you,
fandoms.
thank you.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Great. We had a second for the motion. I believe we had a third. Yes, sir. Could you tell us, could you please introduce yourself, Onrie?
Yes, absolutely. My name is Onrie Kompan, and I was collaborating with David Anthony Kraft for the last 10 years on a comic book series called Yi Soon Shin, which I do not have in front of me at the moment, which he would be really disappointed with me about. But
Gotcha.
him and I were very close, and I'm very honored that I was able to learn what I did about comics through him.
If you're suddenly struck down by a lightning bolt, we know why now.
Yes, exactly. All right. So I guess Peter or Dwight.
Well, I'll introduce myself. You know, I'm Peter B. Gillis, or Peter Benno Gillis. I think I became Peter B. Gillis
Fantastic.
in
Okay.
1978. But about when I was breaking into Marvel, which was a gradual process, Dave was one of my friends and allies, and over the years, off and on, I interacted with him. I learned stuff from him. I taught him some stuff, and he remained a friend all this time. And I'm really, really sad he's gone.
I'm just glad that we have a chance to get some of his friends together, right? You guys know how to share DAC energy like nobody else. And that's what I was really hoping for, is that we get a chance to do that. So to make it complete, and of course, your condolences for your losses, folks, but I wanted to say,
I think, we need to let Dwight introduce himself.
yes, we do. In fact, Dwight was originally going to, he was going to second this thing for me. He's that kind. Dwight, would you please? Oh, you're not Dwight. Let me go back to gallery. Hang on, there you go, Dwight. I guess now you're introduced. Go ahead.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, I'm Dwight John Zimmerman. Dave and I go way back, 1968, high school. And we actually met over a Marvel comic, a Lancer paperback edition of Daredevil. It was art school, art class. And I was a big comic book and science fiction fan, and was happy to discover Dave was said same. And that was the start of a friendship that began. We did fanzines. This is Omnifan, one of them. Here's another issue.
All right.
And then we did a second one called Oak Leaves, which is based on, this is about Otis Adelbert Klein, the author and agent of the pulp era. So we did an awful lot of those. And with Omnifan, we published the first work of Mark Allen Nelson, who went on to do comics. And we even have among the first work of Steve Lealoa's.
Wow.
And so, you know, we stayed friends, and Dave helped me break into the industry, and well, we'll just be talking later.
Sounds great. Hey, Dak used to say, I didn't break into the industry. They invited me in. And he
That's
tells
true.
us, and it's true. And he tells the story about Roy Thomas, who invited him up to, after he was the editor of a paranormal phenomenon magazine down in Raven, Georgia. And Roy needed him.
It was Raven County, Georgia, and the magazine was Orion.
Thank you. All right. Surely you went all the Dak trivia for today. That was excellent. Who else knows about Dave the Dude and Blabbermouth? I mean, now that's some obscure trivia, Dwight. Would you mind dropping a little wisdom on us for that one?
Well, I wound up living with Dave for 4 years down in Raven County. So, and I contributed to Orion as well.
Oh, fantastic. Well, guys, that takes care of our business with Dollar Bill. I have one more vote for you. It comes to us from Roy Thomas. And Roy is sorry that he can't be with you guys today. But he actually sent his condolences twice, because he said, I'm really, really sorry I can't make it to Dak's thing, as he put it. But I think
Dak would have appreciated that.
Yes. But Roy doesn't really do panels too much these days. But Dak was someone who meant a lot to him, and he sent the final vote, and maybe the only one we need, from the creator of the Defenders to officially make it Dollar Bill's birthday every year on May the 31st. Or do I hear Jim saying, "Oh, go ahead and make it May 29th"? Yeah.
No. 31st is,
And Dwight's like, oh, I got a birthday. If we make it May 31st, that's so close. There's like, let's see, Jim and Dwight and Dak, everybody together. This would be a good chance. And plus, I mentioned Ledge. It's an opportunity to remember Roger Schleifer too, co-showrunner of Jim, writer of many Marvel comics, unsung hero, as is the case with Dak, working very hard behind the scenes on comics to get them right. And we'll never know how much we should thank them. All right. Okay. Onrie.
Yes.
Would you care to moderate? I was going to take a step back and let you comic book folks have a shot at it. I'll tell you about my comic book, my unsung comic book career someday. But this is Dak's. This is Dak. This is Dollar Bill's birthday.
Excellent. Yes, I'd be happy to do it. And I think probably the best way for us to kick this off is maybe to share just some funny stories. Dak was someone who was full of life. He enjoyed laughing. He enjoyed experiencing things, and he was very observant. And when he would have conversations with people, he would be fully invested in what they were sharing with him. When he was working on something, he was fully invested in what he was working on. So I think the best way to remember him is to remember him fondly. Maybe we could share some fun stories. And I think the best person to probably kick that off would be Jim.
I disagree, but I'll go ahead anyway. One of the things, just by the fact that we're all calling him Dak, he was very much like Stan Lee into giving all his friends nicknames. So mine, way back when, and Mr. Zimmerman could attest to this, was the Scoff Beast, And I can't imagine why he called me such a thing.
I
Onrie, did you?
remember that. Yes.
I remember it too. He did call you the scoff piece.
Well, one of Dave's theories was that he and I exchanged personalities over the years, that I was this sarcastic, brash New Yorker, and he was this very nice, soft-spoken, pseudo Southerner who, but over the years, like people would, are shocked by that. Oh, Jim, he's such a sweetheart. He's so nice. And Dak would be, like this raging monster at times. So, but, I don't know if you want to reveal your nickname, Dwight, or Onrie, did he ever?
He had a nickname for me. He had two of them, actually. The first one was Oh Man.
That makes sense.
It's pretty clear. But the next one is Konpan Kompan. That's a production related matter. He would sometimes I would send out emails and he'd be like, no, it's not that. And he had his own. Jim is known for doing his Stan impression, but Dak had his own unique Stan impression. And it sticks in my head all the time. Whenever I'm, writing or anything like that, I just imagine a small Stanley and Dak's voice coming out and being like, no, that's not how you do it. And, it was that's just, that was his nature. It wasn't like he would just, start yelling and making you and demeaning you. He would find a way to kind of bridge some humor into it. So that he hasn't called me Konpan Kompan in a long time, but that was that when we first started working together and I had some trouble at times kind of figuring things out. That was his nickname for me.
And I think Peter revealed to the world recently how Gerber named a character.
Yeah.
You want to tell that story, Peter?
Yeah. Well, I can't exactly remember the context, but it was one of those dinners or evenings, one of those dinner Marvel evenings that Steve sometimes, attended, and the subject came round to Dave Kraft, and Steve leaned over and says, "Don't tell anybody, but Deckham the Enchanter is David Anthony Kraft is my hero." And because that sort of thing embarrassed Steve. Since they're both gone, I think it was it was appropriate, but I still blush a little for having revealed it. But yeah, David Anthony Kraft is my hero because Dave would come through for him when Steve ran up against a narrative wall, or help deadlines happen. So I think the best moment when I was haunting Marvel Comics offices was Dave dressed pretty distinctly like a hippie, and there were plenty of Marie Severin caricatures of Dave floating around, and his trademark exclamations "awk" and "a roo," and all of that was justified. And then one day he came into the office, short hair, beer trimmed, and in what I described at the time is a court appearance suit.
It was a bit more dapper, but okay.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, it was a severe business suit. Right. Not that it is not. He didn't transmit that he never wore it, because from then on in, he started to deal with people and they stopped looking at him like a hippie. Now, of course, this was mid-70s and the hippie era was still fading away. And of course, I kind of look like I look now, except except for the color of hair and the resemblance to Gandalf saying, "Fly, you fools." Um, but there were a bunch of hippies. Roger Schleifer was a hippie, Dave was a hippie. But he was also a businessman. He was cutting deals and he was doing things. And he decided that, yeah, this was important to, dress like a businessman. But he basically choreographed it for the maximum impact at the Marvel offices. And it was kind of wonderful.
Yeah, a little bit of information behind that was, Dave and I, this was a period, as Peter said, in the mid 70s, where it was still pretty much the same business practices were being conducted by the major comic book publishers as, since the beginning since those publishers started, and which was not exactly the greatest deals in the world. We'll pay you, little tiny amounts of money and we'll own everything. But Dave and I suspected that if we perhaps approached these comics publishers in a more business-like manner, we might be able to achieve more, better deals, more favorable deals. So naturally, we put our heads together. We rented an office, and we came up with what was obviously a very respectable, sure to be taken seriously name for a company. That was Mad Genius Associates. And it was through that Dave had already been having conversations with Saul Brodsky and Stan Lee. And someone who also then sublet space from us was Steve Gerber. And lots of things happened because, like either we were in the office or we were having dinner together. Steve was very much in Stan's favor at that point because of the success of Howard the Duck. And one of the sort of unusual things that was happening that didn't, traditionally happen for the creators is that, Steve was able to get a deal where he was selling these Howard the Duck for President buttons directly out of the Mad Genius offices, as well as I think a portrait of Howard illustrated by Bernie Wrightson. Mm-hmm. And, there was more and more stuff happening. Stan would, constantly be telling people over the years, whether it was Roy or John Romita, about projects he'd like to see developed. And all these people had their hands full already. Marvel was infamously understaffed during that period and producing, more titles and never expanding in every possible direction. So it was one evening, for example, at the Mad Genius offices were near the Carnegie Deli on 8th Avenue in New York City. And the three of us were having dinner. It's the end of the day. Steve had meetings with Stan that day and was telling us the details. And one thing that Steve was sort of like, this guy, one of his crazy things he wanted me to do was, try to work out a comic or something with Kiss. And Steve had absolutely zero interest in it. What is it? It wasn't something that he was even aware of, Whereas Dave and I, very much wanted to do projects that we were interested in, and B, we felt would enlarge the audience for comics, by going into, breaking out of just doing superheroes. And so when we heard that, Dave and I, for years before that, had been talking about a possible Alice Cooper project. Kiss sort of was, in effect, became famous, filling the void that Alice Cooper had left when he had suddenly had to go into rehab and his band was breaking up. So we all got into it. Steve took the reins, but Dave was involved, and unfortunately, he was the most of the three of us into Kiss. And Steve gave him a text feature, the right for the first Kiss, super special magazine. And plus Dave had done some rock journalism at the time as well. And he wrote this, slightly, mildly critical overview of Kiss, which was rejected out of hand probably by Gene Simmons. And Gerber had to knock out a puff piece to replace it under the name Stark Raven. And so my name was on the first Kiss book. Steve obviously was. He wrote and edited the whole thing. But Dave, the guy who I think I can safely say, if it wasn't for Dave urging Steve on to do this, he was the only one not mentioned in the book itself, unfortunately.
Dwight, we haven't heard from you in a while. Why don't you tell us, some of your experiences with DEC, and
DEC Ventures.
Your DEC Ventures, like something fun.
Oh boy. Well, there are a lot of memories. I remember I had moved to North Dakota. I was living with Dave on East 77th Street. That was in 77. And so I was there when Dave made his image switch from biker hippie to businessman. He came to the apartment one day and said he had had a meeting with Stan and Jim Galton, who was at the time president of Marvel. And during that meeting, Galton basically ignored Dave completely. Well, Dave, he had the long scraggly beard, the long scraggly hair, his biker leather jacket, scruffy creative type attire. But Galton just paid attention to Stan Lee. And Dave is a very observant person. So he's trying to talk and everything. And whenever he would interject and make comments, Galton would, listen, but he would just be looking at Stan Lee and he would only talk to Stan Lee. So Dave came, back to the apartment at the end of that day, not very happy. And he said, I've got to change my look. And because he wanted to be taken seriously. And so what we wound up being, wound up discussing what to do and everything like that. And I accompanied him to a men's clothing store. And that's where, got a salesman, and he told the salesman exactly what he wanted to have done, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he wanted to look stylish, but at the same time, creative. So in other words, he didn't want to look Wall Street. He wanted to look, like a businessman, but one in a creative field. Came away with the three-piece suit, and the crowning touch was these snakeskin boots.
Oh, yes.
Remember those, Jim?
Yeah.
There we go. See?
Oh, you saw them too, Peter. And
Yes.
that was the touch that just separated him from a standard businessman. And he trimmed his beard, had the haircut, whole 9 yards. And when he went into the office the following week, it was like Moses parting the Red Sea. Such a surprise for everyone. It's like the double take was, who's this Dave? Is that you? And the ripple effect was that over the weeks, you started to see a similar transformation of the office people, that it was an upgrade in their attire. So he actually had, that ripple effect. I'm going to jump forward a couple.
Well, let me just interrupt. I'll try to be quick. But one of the things that did happen that it's not really acknowledged much in comics history, is that Dave was able to, get some pretty better than average deals as a result of this.
Oh,
One
yeah.
of them was packaging the Beatles Life Story magazine, which I bet was probably one of the first things modern Marvel Comics published that included royalties for the creators. That was unheard of at the time. And but I think the whole approach was just trying to deal with Marvel in a little bit more business-like manner. I think we learned the lessons of Siegel and Schuster and figured like a lot of times a lot of people in comics almost had I don't know, some kind of self-loathing problem, and they were always willing to complain about the situations, but rarely willing to actually do anything about it, out of fear that they'll be blacklisted or never get work again. But it seemed like the environment wasn't as resistant as people thought. We were able to get some changes made. The problem was it was almost internally, as misguided as it may have been. There was like another magazine published at the time, was edited by Dennis Kitchen, called Comics Book, where creators were getting more rights than the average work for hire guys, et cetera, et cetera. And instead of the rest of Marvel reacting and coming together and say, hey, what are you guys doing? Let's work together. Let's figure out how we can improve the situation for everyone at Marvel. It was more outrage. How come those guys are getting a special deal? What's going on there? And as a result, Marvel didn't say, and sort of attacking Marvel didn't lead to Marvel responding with, you're right, special deals for everyone. It was like, well, okay, no special deals for anyone, sort of set things back a few years, unfortunately.
Right.
But didn't mean to interrupt, but I didn't want it to,
No, by all means.
Dave, wasn't necessarily, shouldn't be remembered entirely for being a business guy. He was a great writer, editor, et cetera.
Wow.
But that his approach to business was good and had some success, and I think played a role in his future as well. Okay, I'm sorry, I just wanted to jump
right.
in.
I mean,
Thank you.
I see. It sparks a lot of memories on that. I'm going to jump ahead a couple of years ago because you're wanting amusing anecdotes. So Dave and I had moved back to Rabun County, and he bought. He bought the house on top of Screamer, not having a job at the time, and I took a day job, one of many, but this one was at Kingwood Country Club. I was captain of the dining room, and Rabun County was a site for a lot of movie, TV commercial, TV shows, location shoots. One of them was the movie Long Riders that had the Carradine brothers, the Keach brothers, and the Stacy brothers. Basically, it was a Jesse James, period movie. And I just said I was captain of the dining room at the Kingwood Country Club, and the stars were, they had taken up, hotel and condo space during the location shooting, and we had on display in the dining room a bunch of artwork from the Defenders, framed and not for sale. And David Carradine was a big comic book fan. So, after the day's shoot and everything, and when the I would chat briefly with the people, and when I was introduced with him to him, yeah, I said, Dave, Mr. Carradine, it's really great to see you. And he said, oh, guys, you are our hero. Because he really loved comic books. And so we chatted a bit about that. And I told him about Dave, and everything. Next thing I know, he's saying, hey, can I come up and, I forget if I invited him or if he asked to come up. But one way or another, I said, yeah, by all means. So it was on a weekend, and I called Dave up at the house and I said, Dave, break out all of your comic book art, because I've got David Carradine coming up to visit you at Screamer. Yeah, so needless to say, Dave worked really fast and everything. And so by the time I got up there, Dave had all the stuff, and we spent the afternoon having a great chat, talking about movies. And Carradine gave us the business side of the films, how the studios keep tally of the successes and especially the failures of various actors, how much money they made, how much money they lost, on such films, and other business facts. And Dave, and I would talk about the comic book industry. Now, the thing about Dave's house is that it's located on a very steep slope, and the deck, when you're on it, it's got like a 20-foot drop, a vertical drop, and there's this wide frame around it that you can walk on, which David Carradine proceeded to do. And I took a photo of him doing that, which is framed in Dave's office. And so there's Dave and I looking at Carradine as he's walking along the railing, and we're picturing him falling, and us all the producers that say, excuse us, but we want to tell you that David Carradine fell off the railing and broke his neck. Oh, we were just so nervous.
Right.
While he was doing, he was just calm as could be. He would pirouette on one foot and everything. And eventually he did come down, and everything was all cool and safe. But boy, were we nervous.
Unlike other stories about David Carradine potentially going off the rails, this one would have been literal.
This one would have been literal. Well, we're coming close to the end of this, and I kind of wanted to. Yes.
Good news. I just got a message from Zoom that said, hey, running close to the end, here's free minutes.
Okay. Well, I have plans, unfortunately, so I won't be able to, to stay. But I would just like to kind of, you guys are more than welcome to continue, but I wanted to sort of mention something to kind of bring all of this around, because, you guys had talked about a pretty significant side of Dak, which was his business side. And not only did he teach me how to make comics, but he also taught me how to survive in the environment, with being in the creator-owned place, which is not very easy.
Look at those cool comics he's holding.
Yes, that it was the comic book series that Dak was working on in his later years, and we worked together for 10 years. And everything, I remember the biggest thing that he did for me was he helped me negotiate our first foreign licensing deal with a Korean publisher. And what he managed to do for me was he was an anchor, and when I was dealing with this company, at first they were like, we're going to offer you exposure. Everybody in comics loves exposure. They don't like money. So,
yeah.
It's just
something
for all.
Right. You can die of exposure.
Yes, something for all you future comic book creators to be mindful of is that it's not about the money; it's about the exposure. And we initially were not interested in this deal, And we were talking to another gentleman who suddenly expressed great interest in doing business with us. And this other company that was much larger had come back to us and they're like, well, are you going to take our offer? And I said no. And from there, what ended up happening was a bidding war. And Dak was an invisible component to all this, but he was navigating me through all of this. And in the end, we ended up, according to how things work in South Korea, the most you're going to get out of a publishing deal is probably about 5 to 10% if you're really, really lucky. By the time Dak and I were done negotiating, we managed to get 15% out of this publishing deal, which was huge. And on top of that, they flew me out to Korea for 7 days to promote everything and to get the word out about our book. And we did all kinds of things. We were doing guerrilla marketing, just going out in open areas in Korea and handing out flyers. And I taught myself Korean so that I could give a speech in Korean. And Dak was there the whole time, not physically, but coaching me through all of this and telling me this is what you need to say to them, because on the itinerary of what we were supposed to do throughout this my trip was they wanted to show me around Korea. And I've already been there so many times that I didn't want to come there to sightsee. I wanted to come out there to sell as many books as I could. And it was something that he really made sure that I stayed on top of them with, because it was like, they wanted to break every day at noon for lunch. And he was like, forget lunch, we got to get out there and promote and push. So just let them know that they need to book you at as many signings and as many events as possible. And you got to tell them this, because if you don't say anything, all this trip, this entire execution of this thing is not going to work out in your favor. And it was more than just a simple editorial project for him. What he was doing on Yi Soon Shin was really passing on his legacy and teaching me everything he knew about comics production and the business of comics and how to present yourself, which is why I think it ties so well to the story that you guys remembered of him coming in with the suit. And he always had this idea that we as comic book creators are more than just regular people. We're almost like superheroes. And he very much took to the Stan Lee philosophy of when we come to an event, we should be dressed up a certain way. We need to, get a certain, in order to get a certain message across. And what happened with, him getting the 3-piece suit was a perfect example of how he always did that. It was, understanding how to basically present himself was something, it was an uncanny ability that I think many creators kind of neglect. A lot of us tend to kind of hide behind the scenes because we're used to working freelance and we don't have to see or interact with anyone. But Dak always made sure that if he was seen, you would remember him. And that's my greatest memory of him, and the greatest lesson he ever taught me is to always believe in yourself and to be confident in what you're doing, especially if you're putting the time in.
That's great, Onrie.
Yeah. Gentlemen, I'm so sorry. I do have to get going right now because I'm tied up with some other
We
plans.
have more
Thanks
Yi
for
Soon Shin
coming.
comics to sell.
Yes, I do have more Yi Soon Shin comics to sell, and I'm looking forward to coming back to the convention scene. And I will be carrying Dave's memory with me to every convention I go to. And Dwight and Peter, it was such a pleasure hearing your stories, and I look forward to hearing the final version of everything. Lou, thanks for putting everything together. And Jim, happy belated birthday. I love you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today. Take care.
You too,
Take it
Onrie.
easy, Onrie.
Yes.
Bye.
Happy
Take care.
birthday, dear Jim.
All
All right.
Now
Guys,
cut that out.
Yeah, right.
If I may, for just a moment, I want to show you. I've got this. Wait, I just made everybody disappear. Oh God,
That doesn't look like Dave.
that doesn't look like Dave. Oh, whoops.
For your next trick.
Oh, yes.
I think I need to stop.
Now we know
screen
what your
sharing.
desktop looks like. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, the other one, the lock screen is the mountains, I promise. Okay, guys, what I wanted to do is apparently share screen. I need to do something a little bit different with it because I wanted to show you. I've got some of his work here. I've got Yi Soon Shin, Fallen Avenger. Right here, you can see this incredible detail on the colored artwork, taking full advantage of these the vibrant printing on pages these days. A lot of folks still want comic books to be priced according to newsprint prices, but you just don't print comic books on newsprint anymore because you want to do this now. So it's just so remarkable. And I'm sorry that it just reduces the scope of it, that I'm uncertain how to show you. Let's see.
Well, let me just say a few words about that. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt Peter.
No,
Go ahead, Peter, please. Yes, I'm sorry. I should have had, go ahead, buddy.
Okay. What I will say is that of the conversations that Dave and I had, when I was sitting in the big room, the old bullpen happened to be, everybody but Archie Goodwin and Jim Shooter all in one big, all in one big room with, functional desks. But we were talking about the holy grail of comics, which was more expensive comics on good paper, and distributed in different places. Part of the part of the thing about music related comics, or like Dave's project, the UFO Connection, which turned into was selling it to, putting it in places. Now, of course, that was a difficult thing in the in the pre direct sales era. But all the artists and the writers wanted, bigger books, longer books, in full color, on nice paper, and without ads for X-ray specs. And of course, the industry got all that eventually. And didn't quite turn out to be the holy grail that any of us expected at that point. The last part was the kicker. How do you get distribution? And we talked about that a lot, especially because before the direct sales, I remember people like Marv Wolfman and Len Wein and John Verporten standing there with furrowed brows and looking over sales figures and return figures for comics, and they were unbelievably bad. But while the direct sales market did help, we were going, we have to get out there. We have to make connections. We have to get comics into places that haven't been done. And to date, that's still an uphill battle. So
That's true. Yeah, as a matter of fact, that's one reason that Onrie's been working very hard on going to conventions. It's just like being a rocker these days. You have to be there in person to do it now. It's like for these guys, I'm trying to make it me. It won't make me the, hang on, guys. I'm sorry. There we go. That's still not it. There you go. Hi, Peter.
Yeah.
I wanted to show you what they were working on while I was at it. I'm sorry, this is my very first time ever directing one of these things. And a couple of things didn't work quite like I thought they would.
You'll always remember your first.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, now so will fandom. I really appreciate you guys coming in today. Here we go. That's a little better look at Yi. Just incredible. Look at that. That's a poster that they sell. So that's what premium comics could look like. That's what David Anthony Kraft was working so hard on in his what turned out to be his last years. No one ever expected that. Last one of my
No.
friends I ever even, last one of my friends I ever even expected to hear was sick. So all I can say is just look at what he gave us, guys. Every one
Well,
of us,
one of
so many
the great
memories.
things about this series was of what you were just talking about. One was, and it just, maybe not the most interesting aspect of it, was distribution. Is to clarify, it did not go through Diamond, which is the major distributor of all
Right.
comics. Yet all those comics have sold over 130,000 or so,
Woo!
mostly hand sold by Onrie, appearing at comic conventions, with, going right up to potential customers with a spiel, telling them what this comic is all about. So it's quite an accomplishment. Originally, Onrie had contacted me to edit this project, but I was busy with paper cut, still am. And I said, well, one of the things that's also was interesting about Dave, unlike a lot of other comics professionals, he would go through cycles. There would be periods, it could be months, years, etc., where there were times he wanted to work in comics, and then maybe for whatever reason, sometimes maybe he was just tired, burnt out, and I need a break, and he would be able to take a summer off or several years off or whatever it was. And then he would, whenever he wanted to come back, he was able to do that. Even during down periods of time where everyone else would say, no, there's no work, I would say, no, Dave, come on, come back. You could stay at my apartment. I'm sure you'll find plenty of work. And he always did. So the same thing happened here. As I said, Onrie had originally contacted me. I was busy. And I thought, and coincidentally, Dak had contacted me saying, I'm thinking of, after a long break, he was thinking, I'd like to do something in comics again. If you hear of anything, let me know. And I thought, this is perfect. I had no idea it would work out as well as it did. But one of the great things about it was, unlike when Dave was working in comics, and like most people who work for the big, companies which are very deadline driven, this was a great period for Dak, in that there wasn't quite that same. I mean, they'd had deadlines, and they did work incredibly hard and under lots of pressure. But overall, I don't think Dave ever had a project that he could be a comics project as involved as he was in every detail, every aspect, even as what Onrie was just saying, where he was advising, overseas, here's how you do this, that, but it was right down to every single page, art directing, how the lettering should be, how the coloring should be. He was totally involved. And I always think of one of, I'm sure Dwight will remember this, when it came to comics, Dave could be quite critical. And one of his expressions was, there's no excuse for boring comics. He wanted everything to be as good as it possibly could. And I think this was a great relationship between Dwight and Onrie, where, Dak had been through so much in his career, and have the opportunity to, pass down to someone else who was eager to learn and respected, Dave's point of view, was great. And the finished product was very much reflective of that. Not something that probably could have, been produced through the normal comics publishers, but it was all because it was based on a real life historical person, and obviously there was some fictionalizing going on as well. In order to, I think Dave's view was, they were doing this historic piece as if it was like one of the better HBO series. So it was done very intelligently, in a very uncensored form, and very dramatically and creatively, and really, not to take anything away from Dave's earlier work, but I think he did say this is some of the stuff he was most proud of. So, so I'm happy we're talking about it a lot, because fortunately for better, recently his Defender, She-Hulk, and everything else has been getting a lot of attention from people fondly remembering it. But what happens, one of the things people have in common with the Beatles is whenever we talk to people about our work, it's always something, they always want to talk about what we did in our, late teens or early 20s. Dave was, incredibly creative and busy, the last, 10 years. So,
Yes.
I'm happy we're giving that a lot of attention.
He believed very much in the longevity of an artist too. He would still check out new music. He would listen to new music. He's the one who turned me on to the Chainsmokers, right? But he also, he kept up with, I wonder if he got to hear the last Alice Cooper album. I'm sure he did. It has a song called Independence.
The Detroit one?
Yes, it's got a song called Independence Dave. And I was like, oh, it's like you knew, Alice. He loved Alice Cooper. I think he's in the credits. He's thanked on the album Poison, right? And I just wish I could listen to that all day. Jim, you and Dak used to go check out Alice Cooper. You would go see Flo and Eddie at New Year's Eve. These are some of the stories that I'm just telling you as his mutual friend. He
was famous for in Defenders inserting a Blue Oyster Cult brush, whatever other references were there. But it was just lots of fun. I mean, we were always wanting to do things that, would entertain us as well as, potentially expand the audience. I mean, one of the great things, even, going back to KISS, was the idea that here was a group at the time in its own way, almost as popular as the Beatles. And when they released their new album, they had a little flyer in it promoting the KISS Comics magazine. And I remember when we worked on that magazine, the traditional thinking was any new magazine would take like a year just to break even or so. That KISS magazine instantly sold out and went into a second printing, which was other than maybe the Star Wars material, unheard of around that time at Marvel. So there was a market there for various reasons. Dave and I found it kind of ironic that a lot of people, when they would criticize a company like Marvel, would say, "Oh, all they care about, all Marvel cares about is making money," and yet perhaps the biggest problems Gerber, Dak, and I had dealing with Marvel is trying to get them to make more money. They seem some ways, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do this. Let's just stick with this. Yeah, something like that. But
not really.
Yeah, we gotta force them to. Here, I'm gonna do this so you could make $1 million. No,
Right.
no, don't.
Yeah, it's like he was doing some work on Howard the Duck, and I was going to mention Don McGregor real fast because we're not complete without Don. That Dak and Don, they helped spitball some ideas during the Howard the Duck for President campaign, and some of their ideas for how to assassinate Howard the Duck, the presidential candidate, were actually Don and Dak. A lot of things that people don't know about 70s comics is the way that so many people took ideas from friends. They worked together at lunches. They would help each other out on plot jams. that there's a lot, it's like what you're really reading and why you really love those comics is that you're reading a friendship between people as well as a business partnership. And that has to be mentioned for sure. Okay, fellas, go ahead. We're kind of over time limit. So I wanted to give anyone a chance to bow out gracefully.
Well, just to mention McGregor, again, it was funny that one of the stories Dave's also very proud of was the Scorpio issues of the Defenders. And I think in the last one, Don did help, but as everyone, Dave liked to point out, the stuff that people may have imagined because of their knowledge of Don's writing, the more serious type pages, those were written actually by Dave. And the sillier pages, which Dave at times had a reputation for, were all written by Don. So it was I mean, Don was just scripting the art. Dave had done the plot and the art was drawn, and Dave needed help getting the script in on time. But yeah, they loved working together, as he did with Roger Schleifer, and he did a lot of work with Dwight as well. And you know, it was yeah. Go ahead.
Another person he worked with was Connor Cochran, also known as Freff.
Right,
I
right.
remember Kraft.
Yes, he was my agent for 15 years. So, and when I posted my little remembrance of him, Connor says, "Yeah, you know, Dave always plotted everything, but when there was a deadline, he would, he would give some of the pages to Freff, and partly because I think he said that Dave suspected that they were trying to kill him with work, which he says you can't do that."
Well, I have the background on that one.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Spill the
so-
tea.
Yeah.
So the genesis of that was I had a great secure job working in the print shop at the University of North Dakota Press. It was a dead end job. And, during my vacations, I would go to visit Dave in New York. And that's how I met Jim at first. And remember sitting in the corner during the Mad Genius when, Jim, Dave, and Steve were brainstorming about the Howard the Duck campaign. And going into the offices of Marvel, and I'd keep my eyes open and my mouth shut, as Dave is schmoozing with the various people whose names I just knew, in print. And at one point, a couple of years in, we're having lunch at the print shop, and one of the long timers there was talking about the phone call that he got from a person who had worked there years and years ago, but had decided to go off and create his own print shop, and asked Jim Schley, not Jim Salcrup, to come with him and run the shop. And Mr. Schley said declined. And there are the times in your life where you can point to it and say, this is a life-changing moment. Well, that was my life-changing moment, because the next thing the guy said was, I wonder what would have happened to me if I had taken him up on the offer. That night, I went home, pulled out my notebook, and started writing down all the money I owed on my motorcycle and other expenses, added up how much I would need, just to save money. And then the next day I walked into the office and I went over to Ralph, the manager, and I said, Ralph, I love you guys. I love working here, but I'm giving you my 1 year's notice. This time next year, I'm gone. And then I called up Dave and I said, Dave, I want to come in and try and work, in comics. Dave did everything he could to try and dissuade me because, oh, seriously.
Friends don't let
I-
friends in the
I
comic.
mean, I'm going from North Dakota, to the heart of the beast, a state that has 700,000 people in the entire state,
Yeah.
to Manhattan. But I said, I've got to know. I do not want to have that kind of question hanging over my head. And if I fail, well, then I know. And then I just move on. I mean, I've got the printing skills. I know I can get that, anywhere. But I really want to know. And I managed to convince Dave. He respected that. And he said, okay. So, a year later, I go out to Manhattan. I'm staying with Dave. And my goal is to become a professional writer. And it wound up being a good time for me to come and be with Dave because he was going through a writer slump. It was just, it happens to every writer at times. And what it was is it was just getting hard for him to produce pages. And
Was he on staff as well at that point?
pardon me?
Was he on staff as well during that point?
No, he had gone freelance at that point.
Oh, okay.
Because this is 77. So what happened was we worked out an apprentice master work relationship in which I would write the first draft, he would take it and then rewrite or basically do his Dave thing. And the first issue that was taken, that was Defenders number 56. It was drawn by Carmine Infantino. And so I poured body and soul into writing, the script. Dave took it and he just went, no, and just slashed the thing to pieces. And next thing you know, he's saying, no, it's not this, it should be this. And he was off to the races. Now, nothing, absolutely nothing of my script survived, but it accomplished what needed to be done. Instead of the tyranny of a blank page, Dave had something to work off. And it inspired him. And what wound up happening is the writing partnership that we formed wound up being so successful that Dave's work expanded, just exploded. So when Fref came in, literally that was at the point where we were producing so much stuff because it wasn't just the comic books, it was also a huge amount of projects for Saul Brodsky's special project department. In fact, it was there that Dave was like a vacuum cleaner, sucking up all the work that he could. And, it was just a great system. And during that, it was a huge pressure cooker system. But I wound up learning so much thanks to Dave and, the system that we had. And gradually, obviously my skill wound up developing to a point where a year later, I was at a professional quality level. And along those lines, with Dave's help, because you're never, you're always groping for things at varying times. And I created, with Dave's help, this little notebook. And over the years, there'd be phrases that I put in there. And especially later when we got She-Hulk going, I'd make little notes, because each character had to have distinctive dialogue. One of the very first things that Dave beat into me was, if you can take the pointer, and I think Harry Conway, who originally said this, if you take the word balloon pointer and point it to any one of the characters in a scene, and it doesn't make any difference, then you're doing something wrong in giving characterization. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically it. So this is where these are all the pages here and here of distinctive dialogue phrases that Dave and I later created for the She-Hulk. And I did this made these little notes for over the years, and I got a huge pile. And this was just one of the many things that Dave taught me in, in how to write. And it carried over when I got into the military history side of things, to always look for, and especially when I was doing graphic biographies and graphic histories, especially it helped when when I was doing this dual graphic biography of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. And essentially the whole story is a talking head story. All these guys did was give speeches, so I would find all these different ways to present things dramatically. And
No vampire hunting, right?
nope. No. I wanted. That would have been great, but somehow my editor
Yeah.
wasn't keen on that idea.
It's not history, huh?
Or was it?
Or was it?
Or was it? Yes. Yeah. Dak used to tell me, it's like, now when you talk about Yi Soon Shin, that don't call it history. It's like, that's poison for sales. Don't tell people it's history. Because you have to love history to seek it out. I think that it's fantastic, Dwight, that you ended up writing military history. Obviously, you grew as a writer. Your organization skills evolved. And how long were you working in comics? Because She-Hulk is like She-Hulk has a lot of buzz right now, so it's exciting to hear that you were working on that series as well. It was a very overlooked series by some, and it was underappreciated at the time.
When I came in, one of the things about the Defenders that I had to chuckle over. Okay, Dave also loved getting fan mail. He'd come back with the letters, and Defenders, and it seemed like every letter had suggestions for a new lineup, because the Defenders teams kept evolving, and it was just some of and we would look at some of the suggestions and say, these people would never ever want to,
right, on a character level, what story are we telling here?
And so as a result of all of this stuff, we finally compiled every the whole list and decided to do a trilogy that we called the Legion of Super Defenders, and it threw in everybody. Now, and needless to say, and Nighthawk, Nightcrawler, no,
Nighthawk. You got the guy, Kyle Richmond.
He was trying to be the head of all this, and of course it's just ungainly, and it fell apart, and it got all controversial. But here's the thing that Dave and I were really, really worried about. Okay, Ms. Marvel had this was her first series, and Chris Claremont was the writer, and he and Dave Cockrum came up with a new costume for her. This was the black costume with the lightning bolt. And we'd seen it, in the office and everything, the pages and all that. And one of the characters that we, included in the storyline was Ms. Marvel in her new costume. And that story with Ms. Marvel in her new costume appeared 1 month before the official debut. And we were on pins and needles because we knew that we'd be yelled at. But no one ever saw it. So, then, she comes out officially in her own title and everything, and, everyone moved on. But Dave and I were just so worried that we would have been found out. But fans didn't see it, staffers didn't see it. So we slipped one in.
Speaking of slipping in, I think I have to slip out, but it's been great, and I thank you guys. Thank you for, letting me be a part of this.
Are you
kidding? Yeah, great to see you, Peter, and everyone, Dwight as well. Nice meeting you, Cecil. Thank you. And I think we all miss Dave and wish we didn't have to be here for that reason. But thank you so much.
I wish we'd thought of this years ago. But he was
Well,
always
Before the
zip lining
technology
and-
existed, yeah.
yes, yeah.
Oh, I know. I feel
Oh.
that way about my job and many other things. Go ahead, fellas.
Okay, thank you. Good. And I'm going to go. Thanks. Bye.
Thank
Go
you
on,
so much.
Kim.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, guys. And I realize that we are a good bit over time, but I've had a lot of fun. I actually wrote a song about the storyline that you're talking about. I wrote it I just wrote it for today. It was about like this completely like this unknown guy that no one's ever heard of that tries to join the Defenders on that day, and what it's like to go to the Long Island Riding Academy with your heart full of expectations that you're going to become a real superhero. So it's good. The Defender for a day.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys are kind of a captive audience. I feel bad about playing it for you if I didn't ask. What do you think?
Go right ahead.
I can leave.
Oh, yes, you can. It's like, I'll tell you what, you can play it, but would you mute first? Okay, sure.
Right, that's okay. You got to know that there's this little red button up in the corner. You know, it doesn't bring out a hook and drag you off the screen, but it does allow you to.
We can mute you.
Is there a button that makes me good?
Yeah,
I was looking for that in the settings.
No. But
They do
I
have
can
filters
sell-
to
I
make
can-
it pretty.
But I can sell you a software package that will.
Fantastic.
Only $750. You know. Anyway.
All right, sure. I believe in throwing money at problems.
Yes.
Oh, guys, I'll say this. I'll go ahead, guys. It's like this. I'll say I'm Dragon Star. Take my force field and my guitar and some gadgets from the future. I'm embarrassed by my car. I've lived in a utopia where I fought as a space opera hero. Though it felt like 7 months, in real time it passed like 0. I always knew my time would come. Suit up now, I know the place. Richmond Riding Academy on Long Island. TV told me a better race. I'll be Defender for a day. I'll be a Defender for a day. Well, let's see now. Who is Nova and White Tiger? Will they take us all? I find a feathered Pegasus flapping in the stall. I hope that my time will turn. I've got so much on the ball. They're ganging up to take on the Hulk, who's going to smash them all. Right? Patsy, I'd like a guided tour. Be your attention focused du jour. Who needs coffee with you around, girl? Take me in your Hellcat mobile to town. I think they voted Hercules the leader of the team. And the guy I heard him call Nighthawk is looking like a meme. And there's villains running around saying they're defenders. Oh no, it's Joe Duffy. It's Joe Duffy. Hey, wow, it got famous now. How are you doing? Can you hear us? She's connecting to audio, guys.
I can see her.
There you go.
Hi, Joe.
Then there's villains running around saying they're defenders too. Time to jump, throw, and punch kicks. That's what defenders do, right? So just a little acoustic version of the, yeah. You hear there, Joe?
Oh, very good.
Thank you. It's a little more elaborate than that, but I wanted to keep things on acoustic. I think, oh no, did we lose Joe?
I don't know.
Uh,
She was trying to get in and
yeah.
She's trying. Oh no, Joe. Hey, right now I've got like participants. It's just the three of us, guys. Man, I really hate to kill the meeting before Joe has a chance to come in and speak. What do you guys think? What should we do? It's your afternoon too.
yeah, well, I'm going to be leaving in a moment. I'm going to stay just for another second or two,
Okay.
just in case Joe comes on.
Well,
Yeah.
looks like we're getting our
Ah,
chance.
there she is.
It's Joe Duffy. Hi, she's still connecting. Buffering, buffering, buffering. She's trying. Let's see, stop chat, multi-pin. There you go. Hi, Joe. How are you? Can you hear us?
I can now.
There you are.
I only got the link for this about 5 minutes ago. I didn't know we were doing it today.
Oh no, yeah, I was. I know you don't do DMs, so I was putting it on your comments over the past few days.
I did
Yeah.
not see anything until a few minutes ago this afternoon. I just sent you a reply via Facebook saying, "Oh, is this now?" I seem to have heard about it an hour late. So I am so sorry.
No problem. We set the day for you. Actually, I remember talking to you earlier in the week, and you said Sunday would be
I,
good. We just
I
didn't have time
said-
yet.
I said, confirm with me. To tell you the truth, I've had a family member, it's not COVID, but in and out of the hospital all week long. So Facebook, even the tragedy of a dear friend, isn't my sole priority right now. I'm
Right,
so
right.
okay. So we good?
Okay.
We're
I'm
good.
so
Yeah.
guys, I'm so sorry. I
We're
was
glad
late
that you made it. No, I didn't. I thought that might be the reason that you weren't going to make it, actually. So I'm really happy that you did. Great. So we're going to finish up it looks like we're going to finish up our Zoom with you, Joe. I hate to put you on the spot.
That's
But you know
okay.
how it comes,
Yeah.
you know how it is. You come when you come when you come to class late, teacher calls on you, right?
When teacher doesn't tell you where or when the class is,
Right.
what comes to class late, sweetie?
I think we're
Pop
of course-
quiz, Joe. Pop quiz.
Pop quiz. Okay.
so let's
Name
see,
your
Joe.
topic up. Yes.
So let's see. Let's go back to when did you meet Dak? Was it when you first started at Marvel?
When I first started at Marvel, I knew who he was because I was a fan and he was already a big, exciting in the office comic book creator. I didn't meet him till I was in the office myself. I met almost nobody till I had been hired, and Dave was among them, and he's certainly one of the most memorable people I ever met. So that's all good.
Yeah, I took it as a good sign when I saw that he had longstanding friendships with women. It made me feel good about something. He had so much brio and he was so brash and everything. I was like, but I wonder I wondered what kind of heart he had. And I looked at the friendships that he had, and that told me that he was someone that I could trust, that I would really like.
Oh,
And,
he was absolutely fantastic. And he would have been somebody you could have left alone with your sister without fearing she was going to come back to you and say, well, never leave me alone with that jerk again. Dave was one of the good guys. Absolutely. Always was.
definitely not just creative, not just like just like rapid fire funny. I never met
Honorable.
anyone who could form puns so fast.
Yeah.
Eventually I would just start laughing because it's like, oh, we have too much material here.
Oh, always gave too much material. But the thing is, he was just an amazing person, but his heart was huge. There was never any of this conniving, what's in it for me? What about me? What angle can I work here? How can I use you to advance my own goals? He knew what he wanted to do and he did it, and he never hurt anybody to get there.
Absolutely. A man of honor.
Yeah, it sounds corny. He'd laugh at us for saying it, but he absolutely was a man of honor.
Mhm.
Definitely. Ditto.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
gosh. I don't know what to say. I don't know if anyone else has any more stories. But
I think that's a good way to finish the meeting.
what else
So,
can you say, right? I'm
Yeah.
sorry that it seems like words diminish the man in some ways. I wish that I had time.
But words were his business.
mhm.
The thing
But
he
what can
gave
you
to
do,
write
right?
will never diminish him. They were toys and playthings to him, and he used them beautifully. We will never quite use them the way he did because we don't have that unique dackness that he possessed. But words are always the right memorial for a writer.
You got that right.
Enough said.
Yes. Okay.
Hey,
Yes, I come in late and finish strong.
I'd love the opportunity to talk to you more.
Absolutely.
Thanks. But in fairness, I guess it's like I should wrap things up here for Dwight and Peter. I'm not running you off.
No, but I should go. I got some other stuff I have to take care of. But it was great. Thank you, Cecil, for inviting me. It was fun.
Sure.
There are
It was good.
obviously many more tales, you know.
Thanks for playing part, guys. I mean, it's like it would be really nice to be to celebrate the spirit of the man on his birthday. Oh, Joe, we
Yes.
passed a resolution.
Yeah.
Dak's birthday is Dollar Bill's birthday.
Of course.
Yes.
Dollar Bill was Dak. That
Do
was
we-
very,
Yes.
he
Do
was
we
very
have your vote too?
straightforward.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't have to vote. Dave made Dollar Bill in his own image, ergo, they shared a birthday. It only followed.
Very true.
Oh gosh, did he ever have his life story come apart on a film projector?
Probably.
Well, his life story came apart a little bit on Zoom today, but we managed.
Hey, as long as we acted with love and respect and affection for Dave, I say good on you.
Right on. Right on. But anyway, guys, again, you know, Roy Thomas sends his regards and his condolences, as it were. He said that he wished that he could have been here with us. And I sent an invitation to Henry Vogel and Don McGregor, but I don't have the phone numbers of some of these people. I didn't have Jim Sally. I didn't have anybody's number except for Onrie's, you know. So Onrie helped me put the rest of this together. And thanks for catching that comment on Joe's page, Peter, because it was really cool to actually meet you. Yeah,
Right.
I
Well,
wish I could just talk to you about the Defenders. I could talk to all three of you about just your careers at length.
Right.
Maybe one day I'll get that opportunity.
Well,
I
you
would
have our
love it.
emails.
All
well,
right.
you know, it's kind of like I had to move all of, you know, like a foot and a half to attend this meeting. So I think I can do that. So Joe, it was great seeing you again. It's been
Pete, it's been
know,
way too long. It's good to see you.
Yeah.
Joe,
I will tell you that, you know, it was like, I think it's 3 years ago, because one of the years doesn't count, but I started going to conventions again. And I'm
Wow.
going, you know, and one of the places invited me like 4 cities to go one summer. And I'm going, Hulk likes this game. You know, and I got to see all sorts of people that I hadn't seen in years. So, you know, and a few people who, though I'd worked with, never had met in the flesh.
Wow.
So like Ty Temple,
Terrific.
you know, I just go, you know, and you know, Bob Hall, who I worked with on What If, and no, we had met but hadn't seen each other since he was an editor at Marvel.
Yeah, so we're going back about 40 years.
Right. So, but then of course, and I was going, a new world opens up and closes again. Hopefully it's going to open up again, you know. So
You're close. Yeah.
Anyway.
Boulder is our county is considered clear, so that's very good news. It's still.
Oh, congratulations.
So happy about that. A couple of weeks here in the clear. Next month, I'm going to go out and start getting to know people in my new city. I just got here 3 months ago. It's the most beautiful
Mhm.
place I've seen since I left San Diego, for sure. And Dak advised me, don't go to Oregon. He said, it rains all the time. It's gloomy up there. He said, you will be depressed. Don't go to Oregon. I was like, but I need to go somewhere I can afford that's not Marjorie Taylor Greene's district.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's like, okay, so it's like Oregon, Bangor, Maine. And then I found Boulder. I couldn't believe it. I wanted to come to Boulder for a long time, but I thought it was going to be too expensive. So
Yeah,
when
I
you're
would've
working
thought so,
freelance,
too.
you know, you have to
Yeah.
think.
Oh, you
about-
know,
Yeah.
Central New York, you know, it's still 40 degrees, you know, at Memorial Day.
Oh
So,
wow, yeah, rainy here today, but some nice days, beautiful days coming.
Okay, well,
Okay,
I
well,
gotta go. So
I'm-
Cecil, thank
Yeah,
you
thank
again.
you so
Take
much.
care,
Okay.
Joe. You know,
Quite
I will bid
fantastic.
you adieu as well.
All
Bye-bye.
right, I
Bye.
guess, well, let's stick a fork in it. We're done. All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And hey, happy birthday, Dollar Bill. Happy birthday to Dak too. And thank you so much, Joe. I know that I knew this was you were under you had special contingencies this time, and
Well,
I'm
I'm glad
really glad you made it. You're part
glad
of
I was able to
history.
join you. Thank you so much. I'll do it again another time, hopefully when it's less crazy. This is the first, it won't be the last.
Let's do hope for a lot less crazy and a lot more good memories to make.
Okay.
It's such a pleasure. I still check out some of your music recommendations that you made over the
Well,
summer
thank you.
too. Yeah, some good soundtrack stuff, like Young Indiana Jones soundtrack. I need to write to that one.
That one is a good one to write to. I have, it's a favorite of mine. So,
Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it. I hope that you'll take care. I also hope that your family member will be all right too.
you know what? Right now, we've done everything we can. It looks like a good situation, but it's one of these things it's always in the hands of God, you know, the God, the divine, the almighty, fate, whatever you want to
Yep.
call it.
The source. Yeah.
We've done what we can, and we just have to know that we have to hope that it's enough. So
That's
thank you.
it. When you've done your best, though, it's like that. We would like a little more control sometimes, because we want everyone to be well. We want everyone to last 150 years. I mean, if it was up to us, nothing would break.
I never expected to hear when I was already in a life and death situation. I didn't expect to hear that a dear old friend who I didn't know was sick had suddenly died. That's life. You can't control it. Do the best you can with what you've got.
And definitely when you have a mind to give that friend a call, spend that little bit of time, even if it's a guy that'll talk to you for 2 to 4 hours like that. It's like, you'll be so glad for every one of those minutes one day.
Absolutely.
And I'm really grateful for your minutes too, because I know they came at a great premium. So thank you so much, Miss Joe.
Oh, it was a pleasure. As I said, we'll definitely do this again, but now I probably should hit the road. Thank you so much, Cecil. I appreciate it.
You're welcome very much. Namaste,
Okay.
Miss Joe. I'll see you soon.
Namaste.
Okay.
Absolutely.
As we
Thanks.
say, see you later.
Okay. It's well, now I have to figure out how to leave me.
Right.
Oh,
It's
there
like, now we'll gracefully go out with a
Okay,
bang.
thanks.
Okay. In
Take care.
3, 2, 1.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, that's how I do that. I meant to do that a long time ago, but I couldn't stop the video. Okay, so that's how you get the profile picture. Look how easy it was to be Defender for a day. All right. Thank you, everybody that listened. We had a lot of fun. I'll be Defender for a day. Happy birthday, Dak. Happy birthday, Dollar Bill. You guys remember May 31st? You guys remember Dak, okay? Thank you, and have a good afternoon from Boulder, Colorado.